Retail outlets and businesses work on things called profit margins, and they're often used or calculated with percentages. So say, for example, the cost of a pair of shoes to buy it from a factory outlet was $100. In this case, the store would want to sell it for a price higher than that. So let's say the profit margin, they want to have a 38% profit margin. Therefore, they are, and thinking about this in percentages, they're going to sell their shoes then for 100% is the cost price, but then they're going to add the 38% of the profit margin. So that was the profit margin here, meaning that they're going to sell the shoes at 138% of the original price. Often then that's easier to work that as a decimal. 138 as a decimal is 1.38. Then to work out the selling price with the profit margin of 38%, you would do the original price, which was $100, and then you would times that by 1.38, selling it at 138% of the original price. That would therefore give you, in this case, $138. Let's look at this phone, for example. It has cost the retailer $80, but they want to sell it for a percentage profit of 65%. The original price in this case is 100%, and we're going to add the profit margin, which is 65%. Therefore, our percentage to work with is 165%, or that as a decimal is 1.65. Let's now multiply the original price, $80, by 1.65 to get the price selling it at a profit margin of 65%. Use the calculator. 80 times 1.65 is equal to $132. So the price of the phone selling it at a profit margin of 65% is $132. Let's look at this worded problem. Kyle runs a jewellery business that uses a fixed profit margin of 98%. For how much would he sell a necklace that would cost him $830? In this case, the fixed profit margin is important, 98%, and his cost price in this case was $830. So, the cost price was 100%, the profit margin's 98%, so we need to work with 198%, which as a decimal is equal to 1.98. The cost price was $830. Working with his profit margin, we need to multiply this by 198% or 1.98 as a decimal. 830 times 1.98 on the calculator gives us the answer of $1,643.40. This worded problem is slightly different. Let's have a look. A retailer sells a laptop for $1,975. His store works with a fixed profit margin of 25%. What is the cost price of the laptop? In this instance, we don't have the cost price, so we're going to need to work backwards. So we're going to work backwards from the selling price right back to the cost price. Okay, let's first think about the profit margin in this case. That's the first important bit of information. So he's selling for a fixed profit margin of 25%. We know the original cost price of the item is 100% of the item, working previously. So therefore, the cost price of the item must have been multiplied by 125% or 1.25. So in this case, cost price times by 1.25, because that's our fixed profit margin of 25%, is equal to the selling price of $1,975. Therefore, to get the cost price, we're going to need to divide both sides of this equation by 1.25 to leave the cost price on its own. Therefore, the cost price is going to be equal to $1,975 divided by 1.25, leaving us with the answer of $1,580. It's always good with these ones to go back and check your answer. So I've got 1,580 in my calculator. We know we're working with a fixed profit margin of 25%. So that's going to be multiplying by 125% or times by 1.25. Times it by 1.25, I get back to the original answer of 1,975. Just be careful with these ones where you are working backwards from the selling price back to the cost price. Here's our final example for profit margins. A little bit of a different question again. We're going to try and find the profit margin in this question. A motorbike restoration garage purchased a motorbike and parts for $350 and later sold it for $895. What was the profit margin on their sale? You might notice that they made $545 on their sale. There are two ways you can go about this question. I'm going to split it down there in half. First method might be a little more tricky, is you could do this. You know that the original price, $350, was multiplied by a profit margin to get it to $895. So in this case, you could divide both sides by 350 to then get the profit margin on its own. So $895 divided by 350 is equal to 2.557, which rounded off is equal to 2.56. That as a percentage is equal to 256%. You might think that's easy, but the difficult thing about this one, you need to remember in this case our original rule with profit margins. In this case, it was 100% plus the profit margin is equal to what you multiply by. So in this case, you actually need to then take away 100%, giving it the answer of 156%. So that is the profit margin. Yet again, if you go back and check and work with a profit margin of 156%, you would do 100%, you'd add the profit margin, giving you 256%. That as a decimal would be 2.56. You'd then multiply 350, the original purchase or the cost price, times it by 2.56. You'd find you would get to $895. In this case, the easier version is probably to work with the amount of profit that you made. So percentage profit is actually equal to the profit over the cost times by 100. And we're timesing it by 100 because we want to make it a percentage. So in this case, the profit in this sale was $545, and the original price or the cost price was $350. And we times that by 100 to get it as a percentage. So yet again, get your calculator out. 545 divided by 350 is equal to 1.557, times it by 100 is equal to 155.7. If we round that off, to the nearest whole number, 156%. So in this case, either method works, just be careful with which one you go with, that you use the right formula and you get back to the correct profit margin. Always a good thing to go back and check your answer with the original rule that we learned.